If you're Gen Z and you're looking for a job right now, you've walked into the toughest entry-level market in years, and almost all the advice you're getting was written for a market that no longer exists. I've spent more than a decade on the hiring side of it, watching who gets in, who gets cut 6 months later, and why. So this is the full map. What's actually happening out there? Which careers are still worth entering? What makes you the obvious pick? And how you keep the job once you've got it. By the end, you'll know exactly where to aim and what to do first. More than 4 in 10 recent college graduates are working jobs that don't require the degree they just paid for, and that's the official number from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, not a headline. Unemployment for recent graduates is sitting near 6%, while the overall rate sits near 4%, so the people newest to the market are doing worse than the market itself, and that's the reverse of how this worked for decades. Part of that is companies hiring fewer juniors. Part of it is fields like computer science filling up faster than they can absorb people, and analysts at Oxford Economics see signs that entry-level tasks are being handed to AI at higher rates. The posting side shows the same squeeze, because entry-level listings increasingly ask for years of experience, which is the market quietly admitting it wants the output of a trained hire at the price of a new one. That's not a requirement you argue with, it's one you get around, and getting around it is what the rest of this video is for. And the side of this nobody puts in the graduation speech is what happens after the offer. A survey of nearly 1,000 business leaders found that 6 in 10 had fired a recent college graduate within the same year they hired them, and 1 in 6 said they're now hesitant to hire new graduates at all. So you're being filtered harder at the door and judged faster inside it. And those are two different games with two different playbooks. Read those numbers again though, because there's a second story inside them. If 6 in 10 companies fired a graduate over things like initiative, communication, and professionalism, then the bar you're being measured against is published, specific, and clearable. The market isn't closed, it's selective. And selective markets reward the people who know exactly what's being selected for. This video is that list. The careers that still make sense, the moves that make you obvious, and the habits that keep you employed in that order. It starts with the decision underneath all the others, what you're actually aiming at. Half the panic in your generation comes from aiming at roles that were already thinning out when you picked the major. 51% of Gen Z now say their degree was a waste of money, and I'd argue the degree usually isn't the problem, the target is. On the hiring side, the pattern behind which entry-level roles survive is consistent, and it comes down to what the junior years of the job are made of. If the first 2 years of a role are mostly producing routine output, first drafts, basic research, data entry, standard reports, that's exactly the work AI now does in seconds, so companies need fewer juniors to produce it. If the first 2 years involve owning decisions, owning clients, or doing licensed, hands-on, accountable work, AI becomes the junior's multiplier instead of the junior's replacement. Take 2 jobs that look identical on paper. A junior content writer spends the first 2 years producing first drafts, which is the single most automated task in business right now, while a junior account manager spends those years owning client relationships, where AI drafts the emails, but the client still needs a person accountable for the account. The same degree leads to both, and one of those lines is shrinking while the other holds. So before you commit to any path, ask 3 questions about it. 1, is the junior version of this job mostly producing routine output, or does it carry real responsibility early? 2, when someone in this role uses AI well, do they become several times more valuable, or does the team just need several fewer of them? 3, can you describe what a person in this role is accountable for in 1 sentence? Because accountability is the part machines don't absorb. Run those against the data and the pattern holds. The New York Fed tracks outcomes by college major, and the majors tied to licensed, technical, or hands-on work sit at the bottom of the underemployment table, while broad, general majors sit at the top. Healthcare roles, skilled technical work, jobs that sit between technology and people, sales and anything client owning, and the newest layer, roles where the job is putting AI to work inside a company, those are the categories still adding entry-level seats. The middle category deserves a sentence, because implementation roles, onboarding specialists, and technical support that owns accounts are growing for one simple reason. Every company is buying AI tools faster than its staff can absorb them, and someone has to be the translator. And that newest lane barely existed 3 years ago. The person inside an ordinary company whose job is making AI actually work, building the automations, writing the internal guides, fixing the workflows, and you qualify for it by demonstrating it, which is exactly where this video is headed. Pure admin, basic content production, and analyst roles built on routine output are the ones thinning, not because the fields die, but because each team now needs 1 junior where it needed 4. And if you're torn between paths, stop guessing and run the comparison properly. I'll paste this into Claude. It takes your real strengths, constraints, and interests and returns the 2 or 3 paths where your profile has the strongest realistic entry, with the entry-level truth of each spelled out, what the first job pays, what it demands, and whether AI is multiplying or replacing the juniors in it. One more thing from my side of the table. Your first job is not your career. It's where you build build the skills and the proof, so optimize the choice for what you'll learn, not for the title. 5 years from now, nobody will ask what your first title was, they'll ask what you can do and what you've done, and the right first job is the one that gives you the best answers to both. That choice decides where you compete, and the next section decides how obvious a pick you are once you're there. The firing survey from earlier is the most useful document in this entire video, because employers publish the exact list of what gets new graduates cut. Half of them named a lack of initiative, close to half named professionalism, and the rest of the list runs through communication, taking feedback, and problem solving. Flip that list over, and it stops being criticism and becomes instructions. Show initiative by bringing one idea to every meeting you're invited to, and take feedback by writing it down and applying it visibly within the week. Communicate by closing every task with a 2-line written summary nobody asked for, because half of what reads as poor communication is just silence after a handoff. I've watched a graduate become the default pick for every interesting project within 2 months, and her entire method was ending each week with a 3-line email: what she finished, what she learned, what she'd take on next. Because visibility isn't bragging, it's making your work easy to see. And the surprising part is how empty that lane is, because the headlines exist precisely because so few people your age are doing the basics. The basics put you ahead of the headlines, and then proof puts you ahead of the basics. Proof comes in 2 forms, and they fix 2 different problems. The first problem is recognition, the software and the recruiter scanning for credentials they already trust, and the fix is a certificate with a trusted name on it. Coursera carries professional certificates built by Google, Microsoft, and IBM, designed for beginners and finished in weeks or a couple of months, and Microsoft alone added 11 new ones this spring across AI, data, and development, with enrollments up 91% in a year, so the applicants you're competing against are already collecting them. If your target involves AI at all, start with the Google AI Professional Certificate, because you finish it having built more than 20 AI solutions you can talk through in an interview. One Coursera Plus subscription covers everything I just named, and the link is in the description. The second problem is evidence, because the moment someone asks what you've actually built, Zero to Mastery gives you something real to show. Their career paths are step-by-step roadmaps built around getting hired. You take the quiz, it picks your path, and the AI engineer path alone runs 11 courses and 53 projects. Every one of them a finished piece of work for the portfolio a hiring manager actually opens. You can switch paths anytime, interview prep is built in, and the Discord that comes with it has thousands of students, alumni, TAs, and instructors, including people who've gone on to companies like Amazon and Meta. Coursera puts the trusted line on your resume. Zero to Mastery gives you the work you show in the room, and that link is below as well. If you're starting from zero, run them in that order. The certificate first, because it changes how the software reads you within weeks. The projects alongside it, because they change how the room reads you within months. With the field chosen and the proof building, the application itself becomes the easy part, and it's also the part almost everyone still gets wrong. A single corporate opening collects around 250 applications. 98% of Fortune 500 companies filter every resume through software before a person looks, and out of every 100 applicants, about 3 get an interview. Those numbers stop being scary once you know the 4 rules they create. First, never use the quick apply button, because one-click applications land in the largest possible pile with the least possible signal, so find the posting on the boards, then apply through the company's own careers page. Second, be early. Sort postings by date and get in within the first days, because the person reading 200 resumes remembers the first ones and skims the rest. Third, mirror the posting's language, because the software matches the exact terms in the description against the exact terms on your resume, and the skills you have under different names count as skills you don't have. That third rule matters double if your experience comes from part-time work or class projects, because a cafe shift where you handled openings alone is operations experience, and the posting's word for it is the only word that counts. Fourth, after you apply, send the hiring manager a 4-line message on LinkedIn referencing something real their team is doing, because while a couple hundred people sit in the pile, almost nobody shows up in the inbox. To see where you stand on any posting before you spend an hour on it, run this. It splits the posting into the requirements that decide the hire and the ones that only break ties, then checks you against the decisive list honestly, including the experience you have that's just labeled wrong. Each of those rules runs deeper than one section can carry. The prompts that rebuild your resume honestly, write the outreach, and rehearse the interview out loud, and that full system is its own video, coming next on this channel. What no application video can do for you is the part that starts after the offer, and the firing numbers say it's the part your generation needs most. Remember that 6 in 10 companies fired a graduate within the first year, and from my side of the table, I can tell you those exits almost never come from a lack of talent. They come from signals, and in your first 90 days, every signal gets read closely because nobody has context on you yet. So match the team's rhythm before you negotiate with it, which means for the first months you arrive when the early people arrive, you're reachable when the team is reachable, and you save the boundaries boundary conversations for after you've built credibility, because boundaries set from credibility get respected, and boundaries set on day 9 get remembered. Ask for feedback at day 30 instead of waiting for it at day 90 with one direct question: what should I be doing differently? Because the graduates who get cut are almost always the ones who heard the concerns for the first time in the exit meeting. Keep the phone face down and out of reach in shared spaces, not because anyone's counting minutes, but because in every office I've run, the person visibly on their work becomes the person trusted with more of it. When anything is ambiguous, your hours, the dress code, how a task should be delivered, ask in the first week instead of guessing, because the graduate in trouble is almost never the one who asked a basic question. It's the one who guessed wrong for a month and called it initiative, because the manager who found your LinkedIn can find the other accounts just as fast, and plenty of exits start there. And deliver something small early, twice, inside the first month, because 2 early wins reframe every later mistake as an exception instead of a pattern. Do that for 90 days, and you've answered every line on the list employers say gets your generation fired, with habits that cost nothing. And the strange gift inside those brutal headlines is that the bar they describe is low, so the few who clear it stand out fast, get kept, and get pulled up, while everyone else is still arguing with the survey. At that point, the map is yours, and the only thing left is to run it, starting with the field you picked tonight. And the piece I'd act on first is the career filter, because everything else in this video gets easier once you're aiming at the right field. Pulling ahead once you're in is its own skill set though, and I broke down the 5 AI skills that put you ahead of 99% of the people you'll work with right here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.